here for a second discussion on office space arrangement. Let me summarize where I think we are, and then all of you can chime in to tell me where we really are. I think the last plan discussed, and Tammy and I met, which was one of the things we were waiting on, was for her and I to meet and go over part of that plan. The general idea was to take the second floor, I'm going to call the probation area, and kick the clerk out, okay, and create space for the new position created by the ILED program and grant. The clerk would go to the third floor where she and Randy and I met and discussed what she would be creating space for herself and Timmy, her deputy, and
then an office for youth staff.
And the veterans thing right out of that corner that we've all been talking about up there in the law library. We took Randy with us, who was in the process of removing books as we spoke. And he's prepared to draw that out and give us some idea of, I mean, none of the walls affected are bearing walls.
Okay. Now, what about the office space down here?
Well, that's the third part of my summary. Okay. So then that would move the commissioner's idea of moving to the second floor would then swap to creating the third, splitting this one into two, creating the third one out right outside the door of that, and putting Sydney in front of it.
Okay.
So that she is the face of the public, which we've noticed much better response from the voters talking to her than to us. So, and so I met with Tammy on that too, and how we'd move some, and that was part of her reason for moving what do you call Timmy?
The auditor.
The auditor upstairs,
Controlling.
was to make more room down here.
Okay.
That is the summary of what I think we have discussed. Stand ready to be corrected or input or suggestions.
I don't really have any input or suggestions. I just, I'm glad we're looking at that. Because I believe that, with the commissioners being in there all together, we're a liability with open meeting laws, and we need to make sure we get that squared away.
So I think what I'm proposing that you and I vote on today, and I think we had Tracy's support for this from what I've heard her say at the last meeting, was that we would vote to go ahead with this plan of making space on the third floor former law library for the clerk and her deputy and this meeting room, and putting the walls were discussed, which is very similar to what we talked about.
Yep.
Clearing the space for the new person to go into however you guys decide up there. Would they go into Tammy's office, or is one of you going into Tammy's?
To my knowledge, I think the new person would be going into Tammy's office, but however, that would be up to Mike's
It
discretion.
is the best smelling office.
I'm sure it probably
No.
is.
So that would clear that space. And I believe we said at the last meeting, in the interim, that for this person is hired before this, that they would be sharing in Mike's office
I believe so.
until we can move the clerk. Simultaneous to all that, we will have Randy draw up this, and then as the funds become available, I'm proposing through the lettuce money, is that the proper one?
Mhm.
That we would add this third cubicle and split this office. And so I've asked Randy to draft diagrams of the third floor and ours, so that the respective elected officials could have a final okay on where the walls go.
Okay.
Does that solve all the immediate needs that we can think of? I'm trying to be long range here, like she's talking about something that will work for a little while. So creating an extra wall for some extra. We're not getting any more commissioners, so that should solve our thing with creating 3 spaces there. We move forward.
I don't see any reason why not.
Then I move that we adopt this plan to temporarily put the new, what do I call that person? The
Treatment provider.
treatment provider in Mike's space or wherever they're sharing up there, while we work on creating a third floor space for the clerk and her deputy and a first floor space for the commissioners. And then everything would switch and we would go forward.
I'll second it.
Any last discussion?
Nope.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. We actually have a plan. Okay,
Okay.
thank you, everybody. Appreciate
Thank you,
that.
Gentlemen.
All right.
That meeting is adjourned.